Welcome to the Leaders in Payments podcast, where we talk to C-level leaders from across the payments landscape. We'll be discussing the products and services that impact the payment space today, as well as trends and predictions for the future of payments. We will also hear stories from our guests about their journeys to the top.
So we offer an omni-channel suite of tools. So what that means is pretty much any way a borrower could transact with a lender, we have a tool to kind of meet that channel. So again, agent assistant payment. So if you're a collector in a seat interfacing with an loan management system, obviously we're tied into the loan management system behind the scenes. So a phone-based payment. And like you mentioned, mobile app, IVR, website, and text pay.
That was Chestnut, the CEO and co-founder of Payix, and he is our special guest this week. This is episode 82 of the Leaders in Payments podcast, and I'm your host, Greg Myers. And hey, before we get started, if you happen to office in Houston, Austin, or North Texas, check out Fuse Workspace, where their mission is to help others do more. Check them out at fuseworkspace.com. Okay, back to the show. Chris moved to North Texas from Arizona when he was 12 and has been in North Texas since, including attending college at the University of Texas in Arlington. Chris assumed his career would be in sales, but he actually hated sales, so he went into the IT department at Americredit and learned the technology side of business. He left Americredit and started a company that bought auto receivables. In 2015, Chris left that company with another partner to start Payix. Payix is a software platform that helps non-bank middle-tier lenders communicate with their borrowers and ultimately take their payments, whether that is online, mobile, IVR, or with an agent on the phone. Their integration with loan management systems helps to differentiate them in the marketplace. Today, Payix has 30 to 40 team members and has close to 100 customers using their software. Chris has some great advice for entrepreneurs and for those just starting their careers, whether in payments or not. We've got a great episode today, so let's get started. Hi, Chris. Thank you for being here, and welcome to the Leaders in Payments podcast.
Hi, Greg. Happy to be here. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. So let's dive right in. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to school, where you currently live, a few things like that.
Gosh, yeah. So I'm almost a native Texan. I was a transplant from Arizona about 12, but I definitely like to consider myself a Texan. I grew up here. I went to school here. Pretty much lived in the North Texas area my entire life. I went to college at the University of Texas in Arlington, and then I moved to Austin, and then came back and my wife in 2000 and got married and settled down in the Colleyville area. So yeah, so North Texas has pretty much been my life for as long as I can remember it. So very good place to be and raise a family, in my opinion, obviously. So
I would agree with you.
Yeah, you're local too. So yeah, it's not a bad place to be. It's a decent climate and lots of nice people. So we really like it a lot.
Yeah, except for that sub-zero weather we had a few months ago.
That was insane. I hope they're right. And it was truly a 100-year freeze. And we don't see that again in my lifetime, because it would be terrible if I had to go through 3 days without power again. And so it really had us questioning a lot of stuff about the grid and whether we need a generator and whatnot. So yeah, definitely crazy times.
Yeah, sure was. Well, let's talk about the company Payix. So tell us what Payix does.
Yeah, so Payix, talking about Payix, I should probably talk a little bit more about my background. So I finished college in the 90s. I went to work. I actually was going to be in sales, and I tried it out. It was terrible. My parents were salespeople, and I just always assumed I would go into sales. And so I got my first job out of college selling Yellow Page ads, and I hated it. It was terrible. I couldn't take the rejection of people telling me no all day long. And so I pivoted and I got into some desktop publishing, some graphic arts. Of course, this is like in the mid 90s and the internet really hadn't boomed yet, but started working at a magazine publisher, got some experience doing, again, desktop publishing and graphic arts, did some programming, built some websites, and then eventually made my way to a company called Americredit. They're now called GM Financial. And I started off there in the IT department, did some web page design and development, worked my way into management, and just over time, worked my way into different aspects of information technology and really to get a broad foundation of how technology could be used in a company to really fuel business and fuel business growth. And then in the about 2005 timeframe, I got a great opportunity within Americredit to go into a product development role where I got firsthand experience of how a finance product was built and then actually rolled out and deployed to end users or to consumers. So it really gave me my first introduction to the business world. And then with my background in technology, I felt like I had a really unique perspective of kind of how to understand solutions and technologies and to take those solutions and technologies and meet business needs. I really felt like I was able to be a bridge for understanding between lots of different functions in the company. I really enjoyed the job a lot. And then, of course, the Great Recession happened, and anybody that was in any sort of lending vertical or lending business was affected. Americredit was not any different. And so at that point, all of our emerging sort of verticals were essentially killed, and affected us like it affected the rest of the world. And so my experience of the business side just basically was killed overnight. Did some more time in IT, but I eventually left Americredit and started a company with 3 other guys from there that was focused on buying auto receivables. So again, Americredit, for those of you that don't know, is focused on subprime and direct lending with a dealer network. So it was a very natural extension for us to kind of go into another auto finance focused business. We were, however, buying portfolios of loans from buy here, pay here dealers, and really brought a product to the market at the time that was really needed with the recession and the way the capital markets had frozen. The smaller independent dealers were really hungry for and really had no other options for capital. And so us being able to come in, buy loans from their portfolio and then service them ourselves was just a very timely product, and it paid off well. We had a good run. And so around 2015, the company we had started after Americredit, again, was called Innovate Auto Finance. I had left with another partner to start Payix. And so my point of that ramp up is that my entire background has really been focused on technology and auto finance, so consumer finance and technology, and then kind of understanding where those two things intersect and obviously providing solutions. So I felt Payix is a natural extension or natural, I should say, result of my career at that point, having spent so many years in technology and working at a finance company as one of the co-founders. I saw Payix as a perfect product suite that I wish I had had at Innovate. And so I went out with this idea that we could build this product suite for smaller, middle tier lenders that really allowed these lenders to provide a good communications and collections experience to their borrowers. So back to your question, what Payix does is it provides software to non-bank middle tier lenders that allows those lenders to be able to communicate with their borrowers and ultimately schedule and collect payments. And so again, that's kind of what we focused on. We launched in 2017, and it's been a really nice ramp up since then.
Okay. And how big is the company?
So in the payment space, everything is kind of judged on processing dollars. And so we're now processing above $1 billion annualized. And so I would say, we're definitely a good sized processor. We've got about 30 to 40 team members between contractors and full-time employees. And so a good sized business. I mean, we're on target to do several million in revenue this year. We've had the last 3 years, we've had triple digit growth year over year, and we expect to continue that trend this year. So a good sized company, I feel, from my perspective. We've got close to 100 clients on the platform now. And like I said, processing millions of dollars of transactions a day.
Okay. And how do you go to market? Is it through a direct sales force or through partners or both?
It's kind of all of the above. Payix is a different type of payments company. I often tell folks that we're not a payments company, we're a collections company. We want to be focused on is really allowing lenders to provide their borrowers a better experience to collect a payment or to make that payment transaction, as opposed to, I feel like a lot of the other payments companies, a lot of our competition is really more focused on just settling the payment. Like really it's how can I get the merchant services business at a lower cost or a lower price, and ultimately just anything outside of settling that payment is kind of on the lender or on the business. We take a different approach, and that approach includes sort of a unique differentiator for us, which is we integrate with these lenders' loan management systems. So every lender has a system they use internally to manage the loan receivables, to almost like a CRM concept where they have the borrower information, they have any collateral information. They have a system essentially that runs their company. And so what we do is we partner with those loan management systems and we do an integration. And so as things that are happening on our platform, as borrowers are having messages being sent, or they're scheduling payments or making payments, all that activity on our platform, on the Payix platform, is interfacing and hitting that LMS in real time. So if you're a collector in a seat looking at an account and someone just made a payment on our mobile app, you actually can see that in real time the second they make the payment. It hits the loan management system, and then you'll see that as the collector. And so because of that integration, the way we sell our products, obviously we do a lot of marketing to the market. We are looking to talk with lenders and really engage them and explain what we do. But ultimately, for us, the most effective way to get introduced to new business is through the LMSs. And so we have reciprocal relationships with our LMS partners where we'll co-sell, co-brand, co-market our products along with their products. They feel that we're a natural complement to what they're doing. And so we're actually able to get in front of their existing customers, their existing clients, as well as new prospects, and kind of co-sell and cross-sell with them. And so typically how we get our new business is through a lead or through a reference through one of our LMSs. But every now and then we will get organically, but that's not necessarily what we're focused on.
And you mentioned one differentiator. Are there others you want to talk about?
I think our focus on collections makes us a key differentiator in the marketplace. Like I said, with our lending background and our experience, the way we are engaging our client base, it's not about, hey, let us help settle your payments, or, hey, we can save you some money on your processing costs. For us, the conversation starts with how is your operation set up and how are your collection strategies currently being deployed. It's really more of a focus on the collections aspects and the servicing aspects of the loans, as opposed to just really figuring out how to get that payment traversing the platform and ultimately settled. And I think that is a key differentiator that we've been able to build on over the years. That's given us credibility and respect within the marketplace.
Sure. So as a borrower, the use cases that you have, like you mentioned, the mobile app. So I'm assuming that you go across all of them. So website, mobile apps, calling in, text payments, all of those.
Yeah. So we offer an omni-channel suite of tools. So what that means is pretty much any way a borrower could transact with a lender, we have a tool to kind of meet that channel. So again, agent assistant payment. So if you're a collector in a seat interfacing with the loan management system, obviously we're tied into the loan management system behind the scenes. So a phone-based payment. And like you mentioned, mobile app, IVR, website, and text pay are all ways that folks can pay. And we do offer our clients the opportunity to we have a menu approach. So like if you just need an IVR, you just need a mobile app, or you need everything, you can, with the way our software is set up, we can deploy that to kind of meet whatever need the lender has. So any way someone can communicate or ultimately schedule or make a payment, we have a product to meet that need.
Okay. And is it like a SaaS model, just a monthly license fee?
We do have a software fee. There is a nominal fee on the software side. We wanted to make sure that the lenders that were smaller lenders, we didn't want to have a high bar of entry for our products. We really wanted folks to feel like, regardless of the size of lender you are, this is a solution that you could obtain. And so we have a very low bar of entry to our software. There's a very nominal monthly fee. The way we try to price it, frankly, is on the usage of the applications as well as the payments, right? And so what we tell folks is we get paid when you get paid. So if you're not being paid by your borrowers, we're not really making any money. We're both aligned with the right sort of focus.
Sure. And I read earlier today that you have a new relationship with Metabank. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're super excited about the partnership with Metabank. We've been talking with them for some time. They're going to support us in a couple different ways. The real big way, in my opinion, is this new product that we're working on. As I mentioned, our key differentiator is sort of this focus on collections and servicing, and therefore we've built this borrower-facing servicing platform. So to be clear, everything that we push out is white labeled. So if you're a lender and you need to reach your borrowers, you're using our software, but it has the lender's brand on it. And so these borrowers using our software think they're actually interfacing with their lenders and using the lender's software. And so it's a great extension of the lender's ecosystem. And therefore, it was a natural evolution for our product and for our platform to extend upwards into the originations hemisphere. And so one of the things that we're working on with Meta is to actually extend the servicing platform to accommodate loan fundings and new originations. And so this year, we're going to be rolling out a new product that will be fully integrated into our servicing platform that will actually allow lenders, especially installment loan lenders, to be able to facilitate a loan funding through our platform. And so we're super excited about that. We actually have a beta running in the market right now. It's kind of vetting out the concept, and then we look forward to extending that further out throughout this year and really allowing Meta to help us on the banking side. So it's a great partnership. We're super excited about it. It's hopefully will be the foundation for a great new product in our ecosystem.
Okay, great. Let's talk about the sort of payments industry as a whole. And I know you're positioning yourself as more of a collections company, but obviously you have to know and keep up with what's going on in payments. So I'm curious to hear where you think the payments industry is headed, say, in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So when I talk payments with folks, I think from my perspective, I think when most people are thinking about payments and thinking about payments products, in my experience, it's very natural to kind of think about it from your own personal perspective. Like, this is how I pay for things, or this is how I interface with my credit cards or my bank account. And therefore, you extend that sort of mindset into how you imagine things would develop. And in a lot of cases, it's applicable, right? I mean, the folks that are buying stuff, the tools and the industry trends should sort of accommodate. But in my experience and kind of what we're focused on, it's a different perspective because, as you know, certain demographics, whether it be economic or whether it be your credit scores, another one like this based on where you fall within the credit spectrum, obviously drive different behaviors. And so when I think about payments, I think about it from a little bit different perspective. And I really like to kind of drill in and think about, okay, well, what's going to affect a certain segment of the population versus another? For example, when the wallets came out, when Apple Wallet came out and Samsung and Google, all these wallets came out a few years ago, it was a great concept. And frankly, the things I get excited about and I use, my friends use and folks I know use. But when we looked at the customer base and the folks that were actually the clients of our lenders, they're not using wallets. I mean, they're still using plastic. They're still going and actually getting cards and throwing them away because they just have a different spending cycle and their challenges are different than mine or yours. And so thinking about payment trends for me, it's easy to kind of extrapolate what's happening with technology and all these different things and think, oh yeah, this is going to be it. This is where it's going. But honestly, I think it's going to have a lot to do with, I don't think it's going to happen as fast. I don't think a lot of the stuff that people are, the saturation of the wallets or the more digital, moving away from plastic itself and actually moving into a digital realm, I don't think those things are going to happen as quickly as folks may think. I think it will take a lot longer. And I think a lot of it will have to do with, because there's still folks out there, the whole smartphone thing and this wide adoption of technology and moving into this digital sort of world, it's all relatively new for a big segment of the population. Smartphones have really only been around arguably for the last 8 to 10 years. And before that, a lot of these folks, their exposure to computers and technology was limited. And so where you and I may have been working on computers for the last 20, 30 years, a lot of folks, they just now are getting fully saturated with technology computers through the use of their smartphone. So I think because of that, some of this other stuff will not happen as quick as folks are thinking. And so payment trends in my mind, I don't think plastic's going away anytime soon. I think there's still an appeal for a lot of people being able to physically interact with their payment devices. And so I think that ultimately, we may see trends going in the direction of all digital cards and digital payments and maybe even a completely digital wallet. But I still think that's 10 or 15 years down the road.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. Well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about you and your journey to your role there. You gave us a little bit of background, but maybe talk about sort of, since you have a co-founder, sort of your role in the organization versus your partner.
Well, I've actually got 2 co-founders. And so when I started the company, like I mentioned, I knew a lot about finance. I knew a lot about lending. I had a little experience in payments just through my own personal experience working at a lending company that was collecting payments. But I really had no idea what it would take to actually do merchant acquiring, to build the banking relationships that you needed to do merchant acquiring, and really how to execute a payments sort of strategy. And so I had a friend, his name was Joe Radist, he's a very great guy. He was very knowledgeable in payments. And so I started collaborating with him. And then I also, a person I worked with at my last company, Innovate, he led our risk management department, had a significant role in collections, and Preston Cecil is his name. And so I got together with Preston and Joe, and we kind of, I had this idea for this company, I had the idea for the product. I needed some help, and I kind of sourced that from Preston, and I needed to understand how to build a payments company, or at least the payments aspects of a business. And I got that from Joe. And so the formation of the company was the three of us. Joe took much more of a passive role. He's not part of management. He's obviously a shareholder, and was really instrumental in kind of getting us up and going and building those initial payment relationships. But he's in the background, still very supportive, and I talk to him at least a couple of times a week. But the actual running of the operations of the business is really Preston and I. I am the CEO, but I kind of tend to stay more focused on the back end operations and product development of the company, so the technical aspects of the day to day. And then he's just a super talented guy. He's so charismatic, and just really has this knack for building really great relationships with folks. And so he's focused on all of our partnerships. He's out there talking to clients, and really kind of the growth aspects of the company. He's kind of focused on that. And so it's kind of been the vision from the beginning. We just naturally fell into those roles and have carried it through to this day. And so it's worked well. I mean, like with any relationship you have, it's not always easy. There's been times when we've had disagreements, and I'm sure anyone who's started a company and had partners is sympathetic to that. But there's also been times when we've had hugs and fantastic backslapping moments. And so it's been a very rewarding for me personally. And it's my second startup, my second company as an entrepreneur. My first one, I had some great relationships, but I didn't necessarily have an opportunity to really pick my partners. I was coming in a kind of a junior role. And so it was kind of take it or leave it sort of scenario. With Payix, I did have the luxury to really pick the people I wanted to partner with. And to this day, I feel like I made the right decisions. And so for that, it's been great.
Okay. So I always like to ask this when there's a founder that I'm talking to. Yeah. How did you fund the start of the company?
That's a great question. I should probably get my wife on the phone for that. So I was fortunate. I've had some success in my career. And so I've had enough success that it provided me a good foundation to kind of get the company going. I also have a few other folks in my life that, although they're not technically considered co-founders, definitely have sort of earned that right in sort of their participation and their role getting the company going. And so I was able to leverage those relationships with other folks, and through that network was able to raise some capital that allowed us to get the MVP built. And so we raised about $1 million out of the gate to build our MVP and launch the company. And so, a lot of that money came from me. A lot of the money came from others. But because, again, we just had a really great group of folks that saw the vision that I had for this company and believed in it and believed that, it was a good time in the market. I don't want to say it was easy, but it was relatively easy to raise the amount of money we needed to get off the ground. And then from there, one of the things that we were blessed with was a great response from the market. We launched. So Northridge was our first loan management system integration. I've got a really long relationship with the guys over there and the gal. Kim, Greg, and Chris are the principals at Northridge. And so they really helped us get off the ground. And so we launched the business at one of their annual user group meetings. And from that day forward, we've been really blessed with demand. And so kind of once we got going and we got out in the market, we were able to generate revenue to continue to fuel the company's growth up until this day. And so it was not easy, but we were fortunate enough, and I had a great group of friends that helped me get off the ground. And from that point forward, we've been pretty much able to self-fund.
That's awesome. That's a great story. So what are some things that you're passionate about? So maybe one work-related and one more personal.
Well, I hate to say that there is nothing that's not work-related in my life right now. And so it's like pretty much anything in my life that's personal has some tangent to work. So my wife, she's someone I don't give enough credit to. Obviously, she was in the room when I started this company. So I was talking, as most people, when they're coming up with new ideas, will bounce them off their spouse. And so she was one of those people that doesn't have a co-founder role, but really deserves a lot of credit for helping me get this go. She's an HR professional. She runs our HR department. So again, just to illustrate my point, like even my personal conversations with my wife, as she's an employee of the company, there's not really too much separation between personal and work. But, I think where I sit today, it's, we just did a podcast. You can find it on our website kind of on this topic. I did it with 3 other entrepreneurs, all of which I've had relationships with. And kind of, as you think about going through life as an entrepreneur and as you hit different evolutions or milestones in your life or in the business's life, thinking back about, kind of what did you learn? What are the things that you would do differently, or what were the things that you really celebrated and looked forward to? And as I think through that, I think the one thing that, and again, this might seem a little cliche, but for me personally, it's just very, very true, is that the reason why I'm sitting here today with the success I feel like I've had is because of the people in my life. It's because I've always tried in my career to make sure that people I interface with, regardless of level, feel like they have something to offer. And whatever it is, it's important and valuable to me. By having that attitude, by really focusing on the people and really looking for what their contribution could be, again, regardless of who you are or what role you may have, it's allowed me to build a really good, solid network of folks that I was able to tap at different points in the business's evolution. So like most of our folks, the core team at Payix, are people I have worked with for years. Like the CIO is someone who's my boss, one of my bosses at Americredit. Almost every one of my managers is someone that worked with me at my last company. And so I would say, kind of from a professional perspective, just thinking about things I'm passionate about, I really tried to be passionate about the people. And so kind of where I'm at now and where the company's at now, we have the luxury to really be able to focus on culture, be able to make sure that we're focusing on the things that pay people back for their contribution to our success. And it's hard. It's not, sometimes you don't meet everyone's expectations, but I feel like as a leader and as the CEO of this company and the co-founder, I have an obligation to always keep my eye on that ball and make sure that I'm at least doing what I can every day to make sure everyone feels important and everyone feels like their contribution is worthwhile and that they're compensated for it. And I think that is one of my key learnings. I've always felt like that's been important, but I feel like that is probably one of the biggest drivers to my personal success. Something I would recommend that anyone who's in business or in this job as a leader is focused on. So again, people is what makes the magic, in my opinion. And like I said, I've lived it and seen it firsthand. And then again, that obviously flows over into my personal life. I mean, I wish I had some interesting story about what I do personally. Like, I enjoy playing chess. I think that's just an interesting aspect of my personal life. I do play a lot of chess. And yes, my last name is Chestnut. And so that's a really weird sort of thing there. But there's a gentleman, I don't remember his name, but he started the St. Louis Chess Club. He's a billionaire. And I saw an interview with him. And I personally believe this, that, chess is a game that can teach you many different life lessons. It teaches you how to think ahead. It teaches you how to plan. It teaches you how to think. It also teaches you to lose graciously. It teaches you how to be a good winner. I mean, there's a lot of simple things that I have learned. I shouldn't say simple. There are a lot of things that may seem simple that are important to learn. And the earlier you learn them in a career or in your life, I think the better you'll have or the better you'll be at creating relationships with people. And so I enjoy playing chess. I think for me personally, it's more than just a game. It really is sort of a mindset that I take to my career too. So there's an interesting personal fact that most people don't know.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. I think it's also one of those things that helps get your mind off of business, right? Where you can get really, really engrossed in something that isn't business, and it does help you in a lot of different ways.
It does.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you gave us a lot of good insights there, and it's kind of a good segue to the next question, which is really about advice you would give to young people. Say, when I started in payments 16 years ago, the word fintech didn't even exist. I didn't get into payments because I thought it was some great industry to be in and some, career I wanted to start. But kids these days graduating college, they can go into payments. They see payments as this hot, sexy industry. So much money's been invested in it. There's a lot of great companies, a lot of buzz around it. Then you add fintechs into it and it brings in technology. So as a CEO who's worked both corporate America and started a couple of companies, what would your advice be to someone who wants to start a career in payments? They're coming out of college. What would your advice be to help them be successful?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say that, well, for one, payments and fintech are super relevant. I don't see them not being relevant in the near future. I mean, with the pandemic and COVID, the mashup of payments and technologies is only going to accelerate. People are not looking for more ways to get in front of each other and trade things back and forth. And so just thinking about how fintech is going to continue to evolve. And again, obviously thinking about payments as part of that, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for new things, creative things. And obviously that opens the door for people coming into the industry, whether you're coming into it anew from a different career or coming out of college. And so I definitely would recommend people focusing on this as a potential avenue for career development. I think for newcomers, what I would say is that anything you can learn, anything that you can do, anything that you can start, anywhere you can start is going to be valuable. I think that my singular advice to anyone would be that there is no situation where you invest your time where you don't get something from it, whether it be a lesson learned because of a failure or a direct reward because of a success. I think that this mindset of a lot of folks that I meet now that are maybe younger or right out of college, and I don't fault anyone for this. I was at that point also, is that, I want it now. Like what's the fastest way to get to Z? Like I'm at A, how can I get to Z the quickest? And I think that, again, this may sound like just the old guy talking, but there's value in going through each one of the letters. I mean, there's value in kind of going through and doing the things that you need to do to get to the next level. And anyone looking for a shortcut or anyone looking to bypass some of the things that are needed, I think will end up only disappointed. The folks that I look back on that didn't kind of invest the time in developing relationships or developing career, or put time in someplace, and maybe you have to take a pay cut or maybe you don't get the promotion, but sticking it out and working through it, the people that were able to do that, myself included, are the folks that really have recognized success in their careers as their careers have matured. The folks that jumped around trying to salary hunt or position hunt are usually the ones that are now in miserable jobs, locked into paychecks and salaries that they don't know how to replace, or scared they're about to be laid off and don't know what to do next. And so I think my long-winded way of saying my advice to anyone is to really invest in the experience of working and doing something you like, and realize that any setback you face is momentary and is also a great opportunity to learn from. Again, things that are not, none of those are novel concepts, but in my career, I have been demoted. In my career, I have been fired. In my career, I've had to take a pay cut. I have gone through all those things. I've been walked out. And so there's been difficult things I've had to face in my career over the last 25, 30 years, but all those things have gotten me to where I am today. And without them, who's to say I wouldn't be someplace else? So yeah. So I think anyone coming into payments or just anyone coming into anything new, really understand that it's worth your while to invest the time to really go through the experience and learn what it is to kind of work through a career.
Great. No, I think that's some great advice. Well, Chris, we've covered a lot of ground on Payix, on your journey and the industry as a whole. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
No, I just, again, wanted to thank you, and I really appreciate the time and the opportunity to talk with you today. It's been fun.
No, thank you. I appreciate your time. And to all you listeners out there, I thank you for your time as well. And until the next story.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Leaders in Payments podcast. Make sure you visit our website at leadersinpayments.com, where you can subscribe to the show and where you'll find our show notes. If you enjoyed listening, please share on your social channels as well.